in this class, like I've said before, is we work on it out of class, and then we come back and work on it together in class. So, what I am expecting is to see people with a piece of paper in front of them, even if you didn't do the homework, get out a piece of paper and start doing it, okay? This is not to say that you can just wait until you get to class to do homework, okay? Most of the time it's going to be much more than this. This was only 20 questions, okay? And as I mentioned before, and as it says on the, again, on the directions, what the directions here say is, read the pages, do exercise 1 and 2 on page 51 to 53, and exercise 3 and 4 on page 54 to 56. Sandra had a question about the page numbers.
Yeah, right, the page numbers.
Which one is wrong? Yeah, so let's just look right here. So exercise 1 and 2.
Okay, so page 51
page
to 53
so this is 1 and 2.
for exercises.
53.
Yeah,
That's right. Okay, so 53. That ends on 53. And then page 3 and 4 on 54 to 56. Yeah, it's right in my book. It's in this book. Do you have this edition? Or do you have a different edition? Okay, yeah, that can just go, your homework can just go in.
I should have the same. I have the same.
Yeah, because it's right here. I mean, the page numbers are right here.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, yeah, everything can just go in one stack. Anything you have to do will go right there. Okay, so let's look at we'll try to look at a few from each of the exercises. So we're not going to get through all of them. But if you are keeping up with what we're doing, you should be able to turn something in, even if you didn't do the homework, okay? It's better to turn in something and get some kind of credit, even though it's just a half credit, than it is not to turn anything in, okay? And we will talk next time about what it means for these people who didn't do homework 30. We'll talk about what that means to your grade. Okay, and how all the grades work now that you're starting to get some graded papers back. Okay, so this one just wants you to, this is the one where you have to go with somebody else's definitions, okay? And again, what it says here is write answers only. Do not recopy sentences. So your homework should look like this. Okay, this is what it should look like. I don't want rewriting stuff. Yeah.
Instead of just a letter, can I just write the answer of what it is?
No,
or
I want for the letter. That's the whole point. I
just the letter.
Want you to write the letter.
No,
yeah. Well, like I said, I have 75 people in this class across all 3 classes. And for me to grade papers, what I do is I take another little piece of paper that says BDCCB, and I just run my eye on it. People have written something else in the letter. It takes too long to grade. Yeah.
Can I just write it aside rather than doing it?
Yeah, if you've already written that, write the letter out to the side.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, don't redo the whole thing. Just write it out to the side. Okay. Yeah. So that's another thing. But you know, be sure you're. Again, it keeps coming back to that. Be sure you read it. All right. So this first one is kind of an interesting one because besides just the answer, this, as you'll find, these little vocabulary things, and you know, again, it's this kind of human nature thing. When we see, oh, is that all I had to do was just write down the letter? We tend to think, okay, that's easy, I can do that. But keep in mind that I want you, and in fact you have to, it's not that I want you to, you have to understand what this sentence says in order to come up with what the answer is, okay? So this has, again, if this were one of the ones where you're just filling in the line, It says, in addition to women, Asians are also victims of the glass ceiling. Here's one of these dashes. So if you were doing this in one of my tests, you could just write down barrier, and that would be correct. The glass ceiling is a barrier, okay? But that's not on here, okay? So in order to figure out which one of these is most correct, you have to go back to what this says. Okay, so this gets into being able to paraphrase what you read. What does this word mean? Have you ever heard this before? What do you do when you paraphrase something?
Put it in your own words.
Not make more about kind of say it in your own words.
Okay, exactly. Is that what you said too? You put it in your own words. Paraphrasing is putting it in your own words. In this exercise, I'm not asking you to do that, but in other exercises, once we get past the vocabulary section, that is, paraphrasing is coming up right here, okay? Paraphrasing, right? So we want to start thinking about it. So what does, and this also goes back to your sentences. This is one of the reasons I wanted you to do that exercise, thinking about what a sentence needs to have, thinking in terms of subject, verb, and complete idea. So in addition to women, Asians are also victims of the glass ceiling, the barrier that keeps minority professionals from holding leadership positions. Okay, one problem with this sentence is just the way it's presented on the page. One of the things that the reading strategies tutors will suggest that you do is when you get a sentence like this, do we need to know this part? Is that something we need to know? No, that tells us that it comes from some kind of a sociology text. But if we do this, if a word is broken on the line, see if you can, I don't know whether that my handwriting helps any, but the idea is now it's a little bit less confusing. Glass ceiling means the barrier that keeps minority professionals from holding leadership positions. Okay, can somebody put this sentence into their own words? Can somebody tell me what this sentence says? Think in terms of subject, verb, complete idea. Who or what is doing the action in this sentence? Remember that one of our action words is to be, so this is the verb. Who's doing the Asians? Okay. So Asians are what? No, that, when they put that bench out there, I thought, you know what, it's going to be so noisy in here, but it's too warm to shut the door. It's noisy to me. I don't know about you guys, but I can hear it. Okay, so Asians are what?
Victims.
Victims of what? Now here's the thing. If I'm asking you to paraphrase, I don't want you to just say this. I want you to show me that you know what this means.
Obstacles.
Okay, obstacles that do what?
That keep
Block them from what?
Leadership.
Okay, that's where this is, we need to understand what's going on. In addition to women, Asians are victims of obstacles that block them. Now let's see if we can find some other words besides, what's going on here? Where are these people that are being blocked? Where are they? Are they at home? professional world, so they're in business. In businesses, what's happening? What?
Discrimination.
They're being, yes, good,
Discriminating.
okay. Victims of, how about if we do this? Victims of discrimination that blocks them from, okay, leadership positions, but again, that's the author's word. What does that mean? These Asians and women get into a company, they're promoted from worker to manager, and maybe they're promoted to middle manager, and then what happens? Do they get promoted any farther?
No.
No, according to this. There's a glass ceiling, which is a metaphor. It doesn't really mean there's a glass ceiling in that building. But they can't get, they never will be president or vice president. And there's no real clear reason why, because they can look up there, but they can't get there.
Was it because of World War II?
Okay, this is, you're absolutely right. This is part of, there is still a belief that some people, and I've had people in my classes, even in the past 5 or 6 years, who are still prejudiced against Japanese people because of World War II.
They're pretty cool.
You wouldn't think, 70 years ago, get over it already, but no. Okay, so it actually is blocking them from what? If they're going to be a manager, then a middle manager, but they're never going to be vice president or president, they're being blocked from career advancement, promotion, okay, career advancement. That's what I want you to do, is try to get your own words. Okay, Asians are victims of discrimination that blocks them from career advancement, according to this sentence. Now, whether we think that's true or not, that's another issue. This is what this textbook says. So that's something it's going to be really hard to pick out which word goes there if you don't understand what the sentence is saying. So you have to do a little bit of that even in a vocabulary quiz. That's my point. So what's the right word?
Obstacle.
Okay. Would this work?
No.
Okay. Now again, if you go back, it's interesting you mentioned World War II. You go back as far as World War II, where what happened in World War II? What is Michael referring to?
The bombs.
Okay, yeah. The Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, and then, so we were mad at the Japanese for many years, and we bombed 2 of their cities with the nuclear bomb, right?
Hell yeah.
So they were mad at us for many years. Okay, so somebody could read this into it. In a sense, it could be considered an insult. That now we're into the, many more generations and we're still not promoting people, okay? But this to some people might make sense, but that's not what this says, okay? Yeah. What about this one? Again, there's a lot of history here. I've had people pick, ridicule, insult, because of this, exactly what you're talking about. But that's not what this sentence is saying. So obstacle's the best one, okay? And demote, what does that mean?
Lesson?
That's the opposite of what we were saying up here. Yeah, the other word for this is from being promoted. So you promote somebody, goes forward, demote, again, there's that D, like decipher, you put them back or down, okay? So there's a lot, what I want to point out is there's a lot more going on, even in a thing that looks like, oh, all I have to do is write down 1A, 2B. You really have to know what these sentences are saying to be clear on what the answer is. Now this one's a little easier, right? This one was a little easier to understand. Did people find this? His recollections of the past were hazy. hazy, what does hazy mean?
Obscured.
It's kind of like when the weather is hazy, it's not clear, right? Yeah, it's a little bit foggy. They were not clear. Thoughts of the past, that's your clue, were so depressing he did not wish to, what does this word mean?
Dredge.
Anyone ever work with backhoes?
Dig.
A backhoe gets in and digs really deep, and you usually use it in terms of like dredging out a pond or something where you're gonna get all that mucky stuff that's on the bottom of a pond. It has to, it's dig, it means dig, but there's a sense of much deeper and messier than just digging a hole. When you dredge something up, you get way down in there and dig up all this junk, okay? And this is the other thing. All these words that we talk about up here, these can all go under this hazy, dredge, if you didn't know those before. So what's the best answer here?
Memories.
His words, his insults, his purchases. Yeah, this one. That's a lot clearer than the glass ceiling one. Okay. Yeah, okay. Jacob Riis, that's how you pronounce that. He was a Dutch person. And he was a photographer back in the late, that's maybe a little bit off. But yeah, really those really old pictures that you see, pictures of the urban poor suggested that life in the city was a living hell for those without money. So what does urban mean? This means cities? Yeah, having to do with cities. That's a pretty clear restatement. So what does this word mean? Where do you live if you live in the suburbs?
The outside.
Out, yeah, you don't live in the city. So this is actually originally suburban. That's what that word was, that you lived in the suburban area. So what does that mean as far as, what does sub mean? As a
Change.
word? So we're kind of looking at word
Change.
What?
Does it mean change
No.
or substitute, like
That's
substitution?
S-Y-N. What's a submarine?
Goes down.
Goes under. Submarine goes under the ocean. Okay, so this means under. So this is kind of what we're going to do. I mean, we have a section on word parts, but we're going to talk about it throughout. And this is kind of an interesting thing. Words tend to change meaning over the years. Now, obviously, if you live in the suburbs, you don't live under a city, right? Technically, that's what that means. But the other meaning this has is below, in the sense that when suburbs or suburban areas were first invented, there was some sense that people who lived out in the suburbs were less sophisticated than people that lived in the city. You're kind of living out in the country, okay? So it was a sense of below city living. It was different. It was less exciting than living in the city, okay? Nowadays, it's changed. People who live in the inner city, want to move out to the suburbs. I don't know, they say now that that's changing back again. People are going back to the city. So it's interesting, the point is it's interesting how these words tend to change over time. We'll see some that the roots are pretty obvious, but it means something different. Okay. Now, this one is interesting because remember we said that when we have the however or but, it can be that's a contrast. However is a contrast. So is this a contrast clue?
Yes.
His patients thought of the doctor as, how do you pronounce this?
Altruistic.
Yeah, this is a reading strategies. This is that if you have a strength in the phonetics, you can sound that out. All true is tick. If that one is like that one Paula had on the board, anti-disestablishmentarianism, remember that? This is the same way. It is exactly what you could sound that out. All truistic. Okay? However, so this looks like it's going to be a contrast clue, right? But it's in the restatement clue lesson. The trick is that it's a double negative. There's two negatives, so that turns it back around to a positive. So what does altruistic mean? Yes. Okay. How many people would have picked A? Okay. Here's the thing. Good. I'm glad you said that. It's not right, but I want to say why you said it, why you picked it. Okay. Just like we said, reading the directions carefully, one of the things we're going to also work on here is kind of test taking. Teachers are trying to trick you, and that's a trick because you see this and you kind of see these two words and you say, okay, selfless, what does that word mean? If you're selfless, what are you? Do you care about yourself? If you're selfless, no. It means you care about other people. That was a really selfless act. But it's so close to this, just visually, and that people tend to have this connection, okay? And they go, it must be this one, because it's so similar, okay? So be careful of that, because that's what Lorraine Fleming, the writer of this book, is trying to do. She's trying to get you to pick that one, because it looks like the easiest answer. But yeah, no, it's the opposite of selfless, because it's two negatives make a positive. His patients thought of the doctor as altruistic. However, the nurses did not see him as this, right? So they didn't see him as selfish. They didn't see him as this. So how could you paraphrase this? How could you put this in your own words so it's easier to understand? Do the patients like this doctor? Now wait a minute. His patients thought of him as this. If this is what this means, if this is the right answer, do his patients like him?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's how you need to, the patients like him, but do the nurses like him? Yeah. Yeah, you have to just really boil this down. That's what this is saying. Does everyone see that? Okay. And it's hard because you think, oh, I was just doing vocabulary, but you have to really understand. You have to kind of slow down, see what these sentences really say. What is really going on? Okay, well, as long as we've done this many, how many people have a prior knowledge of this word? Okay, so you probably could have got, some of us have prior knowledge from watching Law and Order, some of us have personal prior knowledge of it, okay? So what does this mean?
Well, I've never been pressed, I'm just saying.
But yeah, I don't know, you raised your hand, so yes, but some people do have personal prior knowledge of this. Does it mean this? No. And here's the thing here, this is a tricky thing here. This is a verb, right? This is an action word. This could be a verb, but it wouldn't make sense there, okay? What about this? Yeah. This No, it's not. And the thing is, we kind of have an idea that all of this is related to this. These things happen as you go, but not here. Yeah, this one would be B. Okay. Now again, if these were my quizzes where I'm just asking you to fill in the blank, I want you to, I mean, this would also be correct. I would also mark you correct if you wrote this. But if you just pick up the restatement clue, that's okay, which is what she's not letting you do here. Okay, let's do a couple of these, then move to the contrast one. Okay, whoops, I don't need to do this. So there's an example, and again, if you go back in and look, please go back in, even if you didn't do the homework, and look these over. Concern over the escalating, some would say skyrocketing, influence of wealthy special interest in campaigns has led some reform groups like Common Cause to call for stricter regulation of campaign contributions by individuals and groups. Now, you read that sentence and, right, you just say, okay, but I read that, but what does it mean? Okay, yeah, again, boil it down to subject, verb, main idea.
One word.
Yeah, I would like you to keep this to one word. Now, here's the thing about this one. You can see the restatement clue without knowing what the sentence says. What's the answer here? What's the one word that you write down? It's enclosed in commas. It follows the word we're trying to. Yeah. That's the answer. Right? Does everybody see why that's the answer?
Yeah.
It's close enough. It isn't what it really means in the dictionary. What's the difference between escalating and skyrocketing? Anyone know? If you get on an escalator at a department store or at a mall, how fast do you go up on an escalator?
You're gradually going up.
Yeah, gradually. Escalating means gradually. So some would even say skyrocketing. So it's a little bit different if you look up the meanings in the dictionary. But again, what we're trying to get at here is this, the approximate meaning. So what we're really trying to see here is that these things are going up. Okay, so this is okay. At least we're not saying it's going down.
Increasing.
This is close enough. What's going up? That's the next question. What does this say? What's going up?
Does increasing works too or not?
What?
Does increasing works too or not? The word increasing. Does it work for the
This is okay.
Yeah,
or
put
we
it
put
another.
increasing?
So increasing, yeah.
Yeah, because
I'm sorry.
I put
Yeah,
leading,
I need to,
leading to.
yeah, that would work. Good, okay. What is increasing? If you were gonna write this out in subject, verb, main idea, what's increasing?
Wealthy special interest.
Yeah. Wealthy special interest in campaigns, which means what? That's the problem. You have to really understand what it is. There's another way to say it that's in here. Campaign contributions by wealthy special interests. What are those? What about somebody?
I would say
Sandra?
people who are wealthy and
Yeah.
donate often and contribute to campaigns.
Okay. And they have something they want the politicians who are campaigning for office, somebody's running for office, somebody with a lot of money wants that person running for office to pay attention to their special interests. Yes, okay? Yeah, so campaign contributions by people with a lot of money are doing what? Are those contributions, does everybody think they're okay, according to this sentence? No. Some, yeah, are being questioned. Basically, yeah, if I had you paraphrase this, it would probably be big campaign contributions, a lot of money being given to somebody's campaign is being questioned by these groups that want that to stop. If somebody just gives a lot of money to a politician, and then guess what? Suddenly your special project gets moved forward by that politician. Yeah, this is this, like you say, you read this and you're just like, okay, I can see that this means skywriting, but I have no idea what this says. Slow down, take an effort to try to figure it out. So yeah, some people say this is getting worse and worse. Some people say the incident of this is skyrocketing. Okay. Okay, let's go on, since we're gonna run out of time pretty soon, let's go on to the contrast clue. So I'm gonna skip the rest of that. I'm gonna skip the rest of the restatement, but if you guys were following along and writing the answers down to the ones that we did, you can get credit for that if you turn them in. Okay, so the contrast. Okay, whoops, this is already answered. Let me scratch this out so you can't see what the other class said. I thought I had a fresh copy for you, but I didn't. Can you see that? No. All right. Did we talk about the tongue tie in here? Yeah, okay. Oh, that's right, we already did. It's very hard doing this one right after the other. Okay. Let's look at the actual questions. All right. Now, one of our context clues is called prior knowledge. And some of you, as we've seen, have a prior knowledge of the word itself, and we're going to get to that later. The other definition that Lorraine Fleming has for prior knowledge is prior knowledge of the situation that's being discussed in the sentence. So how many of you have prior knowledge of Madonna? How many of you have heard of Madonna before? Okay. And how long has Madonna been around?
Forever.
Yeah, okay, forever. And has she been popular all that time? Pretty much, yeah. Which is unusual. So most people have been around that long, they kind of, you know, some of them disappear, sometimes they come back, but they don't, you know, they don't stay popular for so long. So this is tricky because people tend to fill in what they know about Madonna. Has she had popularity? Yes. Has she been a huge success? Yes. Has she had international fame? Yes. So all of these answers could apply to it, right? So the whole thing is true, but we're not necessarily looking for true or false. We're looking for what this word means. So there's prior knowledge is one thing. It helps to come into something with prior knowledge. But just like with the circles in your brain, you don't want that to override. You don't want your prior knowledge to override what it really says. So what's a clue right in this word?
Long.
Yeah, long. That tells us something. And this actually is life. VIT, like vital signs, means life. So this is a contrast clue. Unlike this, Madonna's career has had this, right? So don't get bogged down by all these other things, which are also true, but that's not what this sentence is saying. That one, once you realize, is pretty pretty obvious. But again, people tend, this teacher who wrote this book is trying to trick you. So she knows that you know that all these other things are true. So people tend to pick the first one that they come to, which works, but it's not what that word means. Okay. People who are successful in life, how do you pronounce this?
Persevere.
Okay, persevere. Did anyone read that as, this is another one of those circle things. Did anyone read that word as, okay, you're one of the, that's why you're here and not that, because you're using, you see what I'm saying? Exactly. No, this is the thing, and that's really going to help you. That the reading strategies lab is really going to help you. That's exactly it, because you have a visual memory of this word. You see what I'm saying? You know that word, preserve. So when you see these PERSEV things, your brain is filling that in without letting you sound that out. Does that make sense? So that's a really good example of what's going on when you're reading. And that's what the reading strategies is it's gonna take your brain and kind of move you. Paula Norton has told me that she actually has seen x-rays of people who have done that program, where, you see those x-rays of people with Alzheimer's and one part of the brain is really red. Have you ever seen those pictures? Like someone who's had a stroke or something, and these pieces of the brain are red, and then in a normal brain it's not. You know how those pictures are? She has seen pictures of people who have started this program and then finished it, and actually the colors in your brain are different. Yeah, I don't know how it works, but it will. It will help you get over that business. Yeah, I know, you don't want to messing with your brain, but it really works. It really works. And so then you won't just assume that this is the word. You say, wait a minute, preserve wouldn't make sense there. People who are successful in life preserve in the face of obstacles. That doesn't really make sense. Keep, save, that doesn't make sense. So this has to be something else, and I don't recognize it, so I have to sound it out. Persevere. Okay? So rather than is your contrast clue. So what's the opposite of give up?
Persist.
Persist. Yeah. And also you can see there's the PER. Same root there. Does that make sense, people? Okay. Now, what about pacify?
Calm.
Okay. And did you know that word before?
Yeah, since I learned Spanish first, and I'm
Good.
trying.
Exactly, yeah. If you know Spanish a lot, that will really help you. Because if you, for one thing, even people who don't know Spanish, what do you do when you give a pacifier to a baby?
Calm down.
You calm them down, yeah, you quiet. That's to quiet them down. What does, and this is from the Spanish, what's the Pacific, why is the Pacific Ocean called the Pacific Ocean? In terms of this idea.
Calms down.
Well, here's the thing. The people who named the Pacific Ocean were generally from here, this part of the world, right? So when they came over here, most of their ocean travel had been up here. And what's the weather sometimes like up farther up north there?
Cold.
It's cold, there are a lot of storms. This is where the Titanic went down up here. You know, that part of the world is more storms. So when they got over here, this ocean was a lot calmer than what they had experienced before. So that, yeah, so that's why they called it the Pacific Ocean. It was the calm ocean.
Nothing on both sides.
Yeah, and at this point, they hadn't been necessarily over here. They had come around this way and got into this big place where it was
Warmer, cooler.
Yeah, calmer and, yeah, calmer. So the Pacific Ocean is the calm, peaceful ocean. Yeah, okay. So this, so yeah, that has word roots in there too. Okay? All right, let's look at a couple of the fill in the blanks one for the contrast clues. All right. The painting may not be the real thing, but it's an excellent facsimile. What does facsimile mean?
It's copy.
Yeah, facsimile is copy. Which, this is the word a lot of people don't realize. And of course, we don't use fax machines so much anymore, but fax machines are kind of old-fashioned. But a lot of places still have a fax number, and that's where it came from. It's a slang abbreviation for facsimile. That one's pretty straightforward. That story appeared on the front page of the newspaper, but it was still more fiction than, so what is fiction?
Real. Reality, maybe?
Not really.
Well, it was, but it was more this than reality. So what's the opposite of reality?
Not
Fake,
real.
not
Yeah. So,
Yeah, not real.
not real. Okay? Yeah, be careful, and you know, this is, another thing that helps you is keep checking what part you're in, what section you're in. Okay. Although the singer wore flamboyant costumes on stage, here's your contrast word. Off stage, his clothes were plain and unremarkable. So think in terms of
Girly.
functional, meaning not decorative.
Extravagant.
Flamboyant is the opposite of plain and unremarkable, so his clothes were
Does extravagant work?
good. Extravagant would work. Even if you just took these two words, fancy and, what's the opposite of unremarkable? Remarkable, there you go. Flamboyant, fancy, showy, colorful, and you know, again, you're looking for an approximate meaning.
So would girly come at all? That's what I put
Which one?
down. Girly.
Yeah, that would work. Okay. What is this?
Ravaged.
Seem to be thriving. What does thriving mean?
Excelling.
Growing?
Yeah, growing.
Yeah, okay, so what's the opposite of growing?
Dying.
Not yet dying, but. Yeah, if it's not growing, it's dying, so therefore the locusts must be killing it. Yeah, these are a little bit easier than the ones about the special interests and the glass ceiling. These are a little more straightforward. Okay? Okay, now we may, some people may have prior knowledge of this, but what's the word that, in this one you notice the word isn't underlined for you. So what's the word that we're looking at for the opposite? He had only glanced, but he, what's the opposite of just glancing at something?
Examine.
Examine, yeah, look at it more carefully. Look, okay? Does that make sense? What we're doing, okay. Now, this is not, it's not that we're gonna do this and then never go on to something else and never come back to this again. We're gonna do this, we're gonna do vocabulary quizzes every week from here on in. What these homeworks are doing is just introducing the different types. So for homework tonight, You need to get in there. If you didn't read this part, read that, then read the example and prior knowledge part, and do the 20 questions of those. Okay, those are gonna be due on Wednesday, and then that'll be your homework product, okay? So if you have anything to turn in for homework 3, bring it up, and then your homework 4 is on the
Syllabus.
and then you can go ahead and go.
The journal, do you this Wednesday as well?
The journal, you have to look on your sheet, so if you have.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I
Yeah,
think that.
so there's no journal check here, so it's not due until it says journal check, and it'll say for homework for journal. Yeah.
Okay.
So it doesn't say that.
Thank you.
Bye.
So you're good.